Today we're going to analyze and learn from the indie game Mini Metro, a strategy slash puzzle game where you play as the architect of real-world metro train systems. You have to make sure that passengers get ferried from station to station in an ever-expanding city scenario. And the main control that the player has is where you lay down tracks or train lines in between stations, as well as some choice on where to place the trains and later on carriages and a couple of other things. And you can see here in the footage that the stations are shapes. You start out with just a circle, a triangle and a square, and then you expand as the game goes on into more types of shapes or more types of stations. And the passengers, the little dots next to symbols next to the stations, will appear in the shape of the station they wish to go to. So the circle dude wants to go to any circle station, the square dude wants to go to the square station, and so on. And there's a bunch of different maps that you can play, such as New York, Tokyo, Melbourne, and there's also a few different modes that you can play. So that's a quick intro into the game itself. Now let's talk about the things that we can learn from this game. The first thing we can learn from this game is how to take inspiration from your real-world environment. So anyone who's lived in or visited a major city will have seen a metro map, right? And I'm not sure, but I can just imagine the designer or the designers of this game sitting on a train, staring up at that map, thinking, there's a game idea here. There's an existing system to work with, there's familiarity for players, because they know this, they can recognize it. There's complexity of decision making, there is complexity there, and you know what, the look and the feel is already created. So they've looked at this and thought, what a great thing, I'll just take that and turn it into a game. So the next time you are brainstorming for what to create for a game jam or for your next indie game or ideas you're coming up with, look around your environment and see if there's any existing real-world system that would fit into a game. And you'd be surprised what's out there that hasn't been created yet, but will make a really good, compelling game. There's so many systems out there in the world. Okay, the second thing this game shows us is that the art for your game doesn't need to be complex, and you don't need thousands of assets to put into your game. I would call the art for Mini Metro graphic design, and in my experience, this graphic design, that is going to be cheaper and quicker than trying to create detailed environments in a 3D world or interesting pixel art or tons of 3D props or assets or characters or animation and so on. In this game, the passengers are symbols, that's quick and easy. The stations are symbols, that's quick and easy. The train lines are, they're just lines, which is quick and easy. And the background is just straight up plain white. It's clean, it looks good, and it works. And of course, if you can combine simple graphic design with an existing real-world look, i.e. something that people have seen and they know and they recognize, as this game has done, then players will be, I think, very likely to accept it and like it. So that's what we can learn, simple and using from the world. Okay, the third area we can analyze and learn from this game is the minimal game design that's in Mini Metro. I talk a lot in a lot of the videos I create about creating a consistent experience for players when they're playing your game. And this game, Mini Metro, does this by applying that minimalist philosophy to not just the look, but also the game design. For a strategy game, there aren't a lot of resources to manage or extract or units to upgrade or stats to keep track of. So it is a strategy game, but you don't have to do those things. You have a handful of train lines, handful of trains, and some other small things like how many tunnels you have remaining and perhaps a carriage or two to add. That's really it. And if you compare this type of train strategy game to, say, Sid Meier's Railroads, where the game wants you to taste that overwhelm of things to keep track of and really, have so much information that it feels like it's gigantic, and there's progress and there's stats and there's upgrades and there's numbers. These are the things that are in most Sid Meier's games, right? And that's why we love those games, but it's a different experience. And it's consistent with the look as well of Railroads. It's busy, there's a lot going on, there's a historic aspect to it. But in Mini Metro, it shows us that less can be more for a strategy game. Less design can be more, less stuff to keep track of can be more, without feeling like it's empty or too easy or too basic, because it's super compelling, super fun, and it gets really hard as well, really difficult to win. Okay, The fourth area we can learn from Mini Metro is how they go about extending the life of the game. What I mean by that is having players play for, not just come along and play for half an hour and then finish the game and be done with it, but play for hours and hours and hours. So in the early to mid game, the player is being motivated by unlocking all of the 12 stations that you can get and unlock. You start off with a couple and then you want to unlock more, and it's very obvious, there's an unlock symbol, I want to progress. And there was some challenge to this, but really only a couple of hours of gameplay for, I think, a typical gamer who knows how to play, these sorts of games. That's not long enough for the entire game, right? So at that point, when you've created this game and you've got that amount of gameplay, you need to make a decision. And the decision could be, do we make it very difficult to unlock stations to stretch the gameplay? So instead of just a couple of hours to unlock all of those, maybe it'll take 8 hours. But to do so would mean that the player's going to have a lot of failure at the start, which is going to lead to frustration, and maybe someone's, not going to get hooked on the game, because you want to progress. You want to, I beat this and I won that and I'm going further. So, you probably want to keep that, or they chose to keep that. I think it's a smart choice. What you could also do is you can add more cities, add more maps, add more content. And this is totally possible, but I'm sure there's a lot of time that goes into tuning each map. And there's only so many cities in the world, famous kind of metro cities that they can draw from. So they're left in a situation where it's a very tricky balance that all game designers have and face, is how to stretch playtime without adding tons of scope to the project. And the way that Mini Metro does this is by adding extra game modes. That's one of the two things that they do. One is adding extra game modes. And just to explain, one mode is just normal mode where you play. I was just talking about that, and you unlock and you try to get a big score. Another mode is endless play, where you don't have the fail state in normal, where passengers, if they wait too long, then the game says game over, passengers were waiting too long. Instead, in endless mode, you're trying to maximize the efficiency of how many people travel each day. So you're basically trying to build as big and as efficient a city map as you can. And this mode is available immediately for the game, and it really does double the gameplay, because you can either play it normal, where you have to, go until you kind of lose control of the system, or you play endless, where you have to keep going and going, trying to maximize and optimize. And it encourages, so it's encouraging you to play each city a different way. And then the other mode they give you, the third mode, is extreme mode, which is clever the way they give it to you, because it's similar to normal, so they haven't added a whole bunch of feature and had to create a whole bunch of extra programming for it. But what you can't do in that mode is undo and reconfigure your lines. In normal mode, you jumble things around, you can remake it, and, don't want a tunnel there, I'll put it over here, and it's all very fluid. But in extreme mode, once you put it down, bang, it's done, which makes it crazy difficult to plan. And the cool thing about extreme mode is that you can only unlock extreme mode for each station once you've completed a ridiculously challenging score in normal mode. Okay, so to recap on the modes, at the start you get 2 modes straight away. There's unlocking the stations, and then if you want to get this extra third mode, then you have to achieve a really high standard. You have to play a particular city over and over and over in normal mode until you get a really great score, and then you can unlock endless mode. So that's through modes, that's how they've encouraged longer gameplay. And then in addition to that, to extend the life even further, there's also, I think, a really clever daily challenge where your score is shown versus a global leaderboard. If you're playing on Steam, all the people who play on Steam, you can see what their score is for that challenge. And the challenges are simply recycled content from the other modes in the other cities. So, play on normal mode for Tokyo, get as big a score as you can. And it's cool because it's got this really nice come back and play tomorrow feel, which is a mechanic that we see in lots of free-to-play games. So I think it's quite clever that way. Okay, so that's real quick. That's all the points I wanted to cover in this video. If you've played Mini Metro and have any additional learnings you'd like to share with us, please leave a comment below. That'd be really cool. What did you learn from it as a game creator? What do you think others can learn from it? And as always, if you like this video and you want more of these sorts of videos, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll keep on making them.